Over 2 years ago, Hidizs released the highly popular S9 Pro, and today we have this successor to that highly popular and well accepted Hidizs S9 Pro, Hidizs S9 Pro Plus, codename Malta. So let's just have a look at how does this Malta looks like. Okay, internally, this S9 Pro Plus Malta has been built on the exact same DAC chip, which is the ESS Sabre ES9038Q2M, a DAC which is I am so very familiar with, okay? And it is still using a single DAC architecture, which means that it also offers PCM 768 kHz 32-bit of resolution and DSD up to 512. Okay, now let's talk about the power itself. Okay, this Malta, as you would notice here, comes now with 4.4 mm balance as opposed to 2.5 mm balance in the original S9 Pro. And it still keeps this 3.5 mm single-ended. And additionally, it also have this two button here, which I will explain a bit later. These are in fact multi-function button and currently being used as volume adjustment. Okay, now let's go back into the power itself. You would see there that the power rating for this Malta is something which I would consider as being moderate at 180 milliwatt of power per channel from the 4.4 mm balance and 138 milliwatt of power from the 3.5 mm single-ended. So let's just do a quick comparison. How does it look like when compared directly against S9 Pro, the previous one? You would notice here, okay, this is a specification directly from Hidizs. The output power for Mata is in fact lower as compared to the balance offered by the original S9 Pro by 20 milliwatt. You would notice there that the 2.5 mm balance for S9 Pro is rated at 200 milliwatt per channel, and the output from this Malta now is 180. The good thing about this, however, is that you get an improved 3.5 mm single-ended, which is now running at 138 milliwatt of power instead of just 100 from the S9 Pro. So that is something kind of interesting, all right, which suggests that this Mata designed to be used for highly sensitive IEM. Now let's talk about signal to noise ratio, another very important element when we talk about dongle. I always mention this, anything above 100 dB of sensitivity will be considered as be very silent and suitable for highly sensitive stuff. And the good thing about this Mata is that it offers fairly high signal to noise ratio at 120 dB from the 4.4 mm balance and 123 dB from the single-ended. Fostech T40 RP MK3, very difficult to drive, full-size magnetic planar at 91 dB of sensitivity and 50 ohm. And of course, I have here my beloved Tangim Zero single dynamic driver, highly scalable, and this one is running on 4.4 mm balance. And yes, of course, I also have this my favorite magnetic planar IEM here, which is Hidizs MP145. And my all-time favorite this year, which is Final Audio A5000, single dynamic driver as well. This is fairly super easy to drive. And of course, last but not least, this everlasting Atimotic ER2XR, which I use to determine the technical aspect of any dongle which I test. First of all, I would like to thank Hidizs for sending me this unit over a month ago, almost 2 months. And I have been able to spend quite a bit of time testing it, listening to it, using it regularly as much as possible. And this is how it looked like, you know, my sound notes, my impression on this Hidizs S9 Pro Plus Malta. Okay, let's just talk about the dynamic presentation itself. This Malta is definitely something which I would consider as being neutral and natural tuning. So what does it mean? First, it does not sound colored. It does not add any kind of boosting or anything like that in particular, all right, throughout the dynamic range. And the most important thing is that it is also natural sounding. So I will explain a bit more when I touch on the next part. So dynamic extension also is definitely good. The extension that I'm hearing is that, especially when attached to something which is highly resolving like this Hidizs MP145 or even this final audio A5000, I was able to hear good resolve extension on both end of the frequency, high and low, and the sound timbre itself. So I mentioned earlier that this thing is neutral tune. I am happy to say that unlike most other ESS Sabre tag, this Hidizs S9 Pro Plus Mata sounded natural and organic. So the keyword there is organic. So you can expect smooth sort of timbre temperament coming from this Hidizs S9 Pro Plus. Okay, and let's talk about the mid-range itself. Again, like I mentioned earlier, this is fairly uncolored. Okay, the general theme which I observe is that the smoothness will sound itself. So depending on what sort of partner you attach it to, it may ended up sounding like a bit warm sounding, but in fact it is actually neutral, because when I listen to this Atimotic ER2 XR, which is definitely the most neutral among all the IEM that I have there when it comes to mid-range, this Mata sounded correct to my ears. Another great element which I would say about this Mata is that it does not exhibit that typical ESS Sabre Pina glare on the upper region, especially on the upper mid-range all the way to the treble. This is definitely non-offensive. It offers very smooth decays. And when we talk about lower frequency, again, pretty much similar to the rest of the sound frequency, it is neutral and smooth with the decay itself, which means that it's kind of a bit slow technically, but not exactly to a point that I would consider as being sluggish or loose. Okay, it is just pleasant and smooth. And the staging itself, if you are an existing user of Hidizs S9 Pro like me, and you would already know that, you know, how not so wide, or let me just put it this way, this Mata sounds wider than the original Hidizs S9 Pro, so that is definitely a huge plus. Okay, and when it comes to resolution, okay, and I noted they're fairly detailed and analytical. So what does it mean? So it depends on this scenario. If you attach it to something which is relatively very hard to drive, like this one, Fostech T40 RP MK3, or even something like Sennheiser HD 650, two of the most demanding headphone, or even warm sounding partner, all right, you may feel that there's a bit of loss of resolution. It is not as resolved or as analytical as how I like it to be. Okay, but when you attach it to something which is fairly neutral and bright, on the brighter side, like this Hidizs MP145 or even this Final Audio A5000, then I would say that this Mata is fairly analytical and detailed. As for usage itself, when we talk about power drain, when attached to an Android phone with 4000 mAh of battery, like my Xiaomi Mi 90, this Mata was able to score 8 hours of runtime continuously in USB exclusive mode. Okay, and it is running on this 4.4 mm balance with 32 ohm magnetic planar IEM. 8 hours was the score, and that is pretty much I would say normal for this type of dongle. And the good thing about it is that, right, again, in comparison with the original S9 Pro, this Mata does not exhibit heat when you touch to the body itself. It is fairly cool. It does not feel hot at all, because if you are an existing user of S9 Pro, you would observe that S9 Pro, especially when running on 2.5 mm balance, can get kind of a bit hot to the touch. Now, let's talk about driving power of this Mata. I did mention earlier that I feel this Mata is optimized to run on highly sensitive or efficient partners. And the reason that I'm saying that is that because, first, as you can see, the power rating coming from this 4.4 mm balance is very moderate. And when I attach it to something which is highly demanding like this Fostech T40 RP MK3 full side headphone, I was able to use my headphone here with a volume of around 66 out of 100. So with the current standard of dongle, which I have tested so many of them, I must say that this Mata seems to be a bit weak on that point, because for example, something which is at around 4 VRMS with over 250 milliwatt of power would be at around 44 out of 100, whereas this Mata needed 66 out of 100. And on another aspect of it, I observed that the sound appeared to be lacking in authority when it comes to the dynamic presentation itself. Now let's talk about some of the cons which I have observed from this Marta, and I'd like to highlight only one, which is this volume adjustment that you see here. Despite being very tactile, this is not independent. So which means that when you attach it to the PC or even to Android phone, this volume adjustment will act as a remote controller and it will not operate independently. So you will not be able to do fine volume adjustment. Okay, but somewhere down the road, I believe Hidizs will provide an update which will enable these two buttons to operate independently. And this is how it looked like. Hidizs S9 Pro Plus Marta, rated and compared against the rest of the competition. You can pause the screen and have a look at it. Okay, but I would like to talk a bit more on the comparison directly with Hidizs S9 Pro, the predecessor. Okay, they are pretty much on equal term, I would say. The improvement that Marta offered, obviously being this 4.4 mm balance instead of 2.5 mm. But I must say that the first audible improvement which Marta offered over the S9 Pro is in fact on the tone and timbre balance there. You would notice that this Marta sounded richer to my ears. So if I were to compare it directly with S9 Pro, I would even consider, and some owner of S9 Pro would even say that it is slightly on the brighter side. It is a bit more analytical as well, technically. Okay, so a manner of saying is that this Marta would appear less resolving due to that smoothing effect. And I must say that the S9 Pro still is the one which seems to be more powerful because it does not have any issue driving this Fostech T40 RP MK3 with authority, whereas this Marta was able to drive this Fostech, but I need to crank the volume much higher. And also I feel that the presentation itself kind of a bit softer. It is definitely meant for something which is highly sensitive and fairly easy to drive. At least you can still drive this Hidizs MP145 IEM magnetic planar, no issue. Let me just clarify that. Anything like, Luxury S12 or even, 7 hertz timeless, no issue with that. Just don't push it, to drive anything like this monster over here. Another comparison which I like to highlight will be against another Hidizs, which is Hidizs XO, which I reviewed 1 year ago. And I'll just put it this way in simple terms. If you need something warmer, you go for Hidizs XO. It is definitely not as resolving as this Marta, but the good thing about this Marta is that it provides the middle ground between Hidizs S9 Pro and Hidizs XO. So there's a balance there between being analytical and being organic and being musical. It is also pretty much similarly powered compared to this Marta. So not very powerful. You just want to keep it for highly efficient driving partner. Okay, now let's have a look at the timbre signature for this Marta. And to give you a bit of perspective, I also have placed there in this dongle madness table for timbre signature. Where does this Hidizs S9 Pro Plus located at? Okay, as you can see there, it is fairly good in the middle there. Very good balance between analog and hi-fi sound, and a bit more of hi-fi appreciation for S9 Pro, which would appear less organic compared to this Marta. And compared to another Hidizs, the older S9 non-Pro model, it is in fact warmer sounding as compared to this Marta. And the warmer sounding of them all is Hidizs XO. And if you also happen to have Hidizs S3 Pro, that is the one which is the least analog sounding of them all. It is edge closer towards being hi-fi, and in fact I would even say digital sounding as well. And this is how it looked like compared against the rest of the competition in the market right now. All in all, I would say that the best way to appreciate this Hidizs S9 Pro Plus Marta is to know what type of partners you attach it to. All right, as I mentioned earlier, it is best attached with something which is relatively closer to being neutral or even brighter sounding, like this Hidizs MP145, Final Audio A5000, or even this Atimotic ER2 XR, or even this Tanjim Zero. But it may not sound as resolving or analytical if you attach it to something which is natively warmer sounding. So bear that in mind. And the key thing is that I would say an improvement over the S9 Pro is that this Mata offer smoother sound in general.